There is no bad news in the morning advisory. Let me start with that. Here's the 5 a.m. advisory. We're hoping this is good news. It's the motion of the storm, which is moving west-southwest at 16. And as long as that trend continues, it gradually takes it farther and farther to the south. 22.4 north, 67.1 west, 115-mile-an-hour winds, 962 millibars, and it's 265 miles east-northeast of Grand Turk Island. Now here's the future track, and the future track takes it on to the west-southwest and eventually begins to recurve it back to the northwest. Is this going to be a very sharp recurvature or a slow recurvature? It's too early to tell right now. South Florida, at least most of South Florida, is still in the 3-day risk cone now. And up through time, as this cone gets smaller, just basically the chances for Ike to go this way or that way gradually decrease. And so when the storm is very close to that part of the cone right there, it's not going to probably turn north or south real quickly. But over here, the cone gets bigger because there are more possibilities. And unfortunately, they grow even farther as we go through time here, so that early next week, much of the eastern Gulf is covered. But as you can see, much of the Florida Peninsula also covered in that risk area. We should know as the day goes today and through tomorrow, especially during the morning hours tomorrow, how that cone shapes up across South Florida and what the potential impacts are to the Keys and to South Florida. For this morning, though, a hurricane warning remains in effect for the southeast Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos, a central Bahamas under a hurricane watch, and for Haiti and the Dominican Republic, the North Coast, their tropical storm warnings remain in effect. Those folks have seen a lot of tropical weather this year so far. Here's what's going on with Ike on the satellite map. You can see that gradual west-southwest motion continuing, and these little cloud motions up here still pushing on Ike, and some of that is wind shear, which has kept kind of the lid on Ike. You can see trying to form some type of an eye wall, but has really been battered by that shear. Good news, and despite all that shear, which has been very, very strong, Ike has been able to maintain Category 3 status. That's why the thinking is after the shear begins to abate, begins to weaken, it's quite likely Ike will intensify for a time period. And then there were issues with land down the road. Will it impact, will it make a run into Cuba? Will it hit Cuba, have an interaction with Cuba? If it does, it would likely weaken once again, and that's why the intensity forecast is very, very tricky down the road. Okay, here are the computer models, and you can see that most of them take it to the south and then gradually west, southwest, and then to the northwest with that turn there. There's still a pretty good spread here, but over time, if this whole track continues to shift like this, then we would think that's good for us. It may not do that. It may just kind of consolidate and tighten up as the turn begins and as the computer models become more certain on that turn. Okay, here's the intensity forecast. Category 3 through the night tonight, then the shear relaxes, possible Category 4 during the day on Monday, and then interaction possibly with Cuba so that by Tuesday night, Monday night into Tuesday, possibly Category 2. Now, obviously, if it stays over the water, it will stay much stronger. If it interacts with land here, it would be a possibly weakened storm, and certainly we don't wish anything on our friends in Cuba, but that would be good news for us, a weakened storm. And then moving on into the Gulf of Mexico as a possible Category 3, and already the folks along the northern Gulf Coast watching Ike very closely. In terms of the other tropical systems, Josephine is no more. The last advisory was written on that, and Tropical Storm Hannah continues. And with more on that, here is Lisette Gonzalez in the Storm Center.
All right, good morning, Craig, and good morning to all of you at home. Tropical Storm Hannah made landfall earlier this morning. Now, yesterday, it was a mess across South Florida. We got up to 5 inches of rain in some areas, but right now, the radar is not picking up a thing, so I'm not even going to go to the radar. I'm going to show you the latest on Tropical Storm Hannah, the 5 a.m. advisory. It made landfall around 3:30 a.m. just between the North Carolina and South Carolina border. Right now, the wind 60 miles an hour. It's moving towards the north-northeast at about 22 miles an hour, located 25 miles west-northwest of Wilmington, North Carolina. Expected to continue on that north-northeasterly path, possibly bringing windy, wet conditions to the northeast and then onto the Canadian Maritimes and then out to sea. So Hannah's out of our way, which means today our weather much improved. This is